Good morning, everybody. I'd like to thank all of you for having invited me in this gathering of yours, a very important one, the FIS Dream at Nine celebration, walking together in Don Bosco's dream. I'd like to go back to that time when we first heard about the Strena for this past year, the dream that makes you dream, a heart that transforms wolves into lambs. And there and then you already see that it entails a journey of transformation from wolves into lambs. And this was given by none other than our previous rector major, Father Angel Fernandez Artime at that time, who, of course, is now His Eminence, Cardinal Angel Fernandez Artime. And this was the last strena that he gave before he became a cardinal. And of course, that of 2025, he had a hand in that also. But let's focus on this year, which we are about to end. And it's good that you're gathering in order to look back. Usually, whenever we have this strena, we always look forward, such that we have not yet finished the year, and we're already talking about the strena for the next year. In fact, even this strena of 2024, this was proposed earlier, and that is in July of 2023. Let's see. Whenever we talk about Strena, you try to Google Strena, and this image will appear. What is Strena? Strena is actually a gift. Strena, as we see in the Salesian dictionary, is a gift, and it's a Salesian tradition that's done every year. That the successor of Don Bosco, even in his time, he gives a word or two, and that one he gives right before the coming of the new year. And for us now, it's an ecclesial comment, and the FMA would know this very well. That traditionally it's given to them on New Year's Eve, and it's given in the generalate by none other than the rector major. It's also a proposed plan of action for the Salesian family during the coming year, so that we're aware that the strena for 2025 is already out, and maybe you're already planning for 2025 using that strena of the next year of 2025. But we hope to dwell in these last few days on the strength of 2024. And you have done well to reflect on it, a Salesian family of the FIS. What do we call strena in the Spanish-speaking world? It's called aguinaldo, like very much like our aguinaldo that we receive in Christmas time. So, what is this strena all about? So many words have been said about this strena. The dream that makes you dream, a heart that transforms wolves into lambs. I remember preaching this retreat to the lay mission partners of Don Bosco Technology Center or Don Bosco Technical College, and that's DBTC. And we dwelt so much on this, but today we reflect in a special way, looking back, not anymore looking forward or celebrating it during the year, but looking back since we're at the end of 2024. As I said, it was presented on July 25, 2023. And we recall those words of our rector major at that time, that 2024 is the 200th year of the dream at nine. And it conditioned Don Bosco's whole way of living and thinking, that dream when he was nine. Now, it's the way he felt God's presence. And therefore, for 2024, it deserved to be the central theme of the strena. And he begins this way when he presented the strena for the first time. And he had a dream, a year and the strena. Of what? Of studying the dream at nine, of course, but also the memoirs of the oratory. And then afterwards, he presents more elements about the dream. And finally, he presents the theme of the strena, a dream that makes you dream. We focus on the first words, and he had the dream, a very special one. Probably for this past year, you have dwelt on the dream for maybe for quite a length of time. He had the dream, a very special one. We really know the dream. Have we known it by heart? That when we talk to our young people, are we able to narrate it as how Don Bosco narrated it? What the dream really is? Or do we have our own version because we do not know the words of Don Bosco? But anyway, we talk about it in Don Bosco's words. Before we leave 2024, let's look back at it. How well do you know the dream at nine? The dream at nine is found in the memoirs of the oratory, autobiography of St. John Bosco. In chapter 2, the whole chapter 2 is about the dream. And let's go through it in Don Bosco's words. It was at that age that I had a dream. All my life, this remained deeply impressed on my mind. In this dream, I seemed to be near my home in a fairly large yard. A crowd of children were playing there. Some were laughing, some were playing games, and quite a few were swearing. When I heard these evil words, I jumped immediately amongst them and tried to stop them by using my words and my fists. At that moment, a dignified man appeared, a nobly dressed adult. He wore a white cloak, and his face shone so that I could not look directly at him. He called me by name, told me to take charge of these children, and added these words: "You will have to win these friends of yours, not by blows, but by gentleness and love. Start right away to teach them the ugliness of sin and the value of virtue." Confused and frightened, I replied that I was a poor, ignorant child. I was unable to talk to those youngsters about religion. At that moment, the kids stopped their laughing, shouting, and swearing. They gathered round the man who was speaking. Hardly knowing what I was saying, I asked, "Who are you, ordering me to do the impossible?" "Precisely because it seems impossible to you. You must make it possible through obedience and the acquisition of knowledge." "Where? By what means can I acquire knowledge?" "We'll give you a teacher. Under her guidance, you can become wise. Without her, all wisdom is foolishness." "Who are you that speaks so?" "I'm the son of the woman whom your mother has taught you to greet 3 times a day." "My mother tells me not to mix with people I don't know unless I have her permission. So tell me your name." "Ask my mother what my name is." That moment, I saw a lady of stately appearance standing beside him. She was wearing a mantle that sparkled all over, as though covered with bright stars. Seeing from my questions and answers that I was more confused than ever, she beckoned me to approach her. She took me kindly by the hand and said, "Look." Glancing round, I realized that the youngsters had all apparently run away. A large number of goats, dogs, cats, bears, and other animals had taken their place. "This is the field of your work. Make yourself humble, strong, and energetic. And what you will see happening to these animals in a moment is what you must do for my children." I looked round again, and where before I had seen wild animals, I now saw gentle lambs. They were all jumping and bleating as if to welcome that man and lady. At that point, still dreaming, I began crying. I begged the lady to speak so that I could understand her, because I did not know what all this could mean. Then she placed her hand on my head and said, "In good time, you will understand everything." With that, a noise woke me up and everything disappeared. I was totally bewildered. My hands seemed to be sore from the blows I had given, and my face hurt from those I had received. The memory of the man and the lady, and the things said and heard, so occupied my mind that I could not get any more sleep that night. I wasted no time in telling all about my dream. I spoke first to my brothers, who laughed at the whole thing, and then to my mother and grandmother. Each one gave his own interpretation. My brother Joseph said, "You're going to become a keeper of goats, sheep, and other animals." My mother commented, "Who knows what you may become a priest." Anthony merely grunted, "Perhaps she'll become a robber chief." My grandmother, though she could not read or write, knew enough theology and made the final judgment, saying, "Pay no attention to dreams." I agreed with my grandmother. However, I was unable to cast that dream out of my mind. The things I shall have to say later will give some meaning to all this. I kept quiet about these things, and my relatives paid little attention to them. But when I went to Rome in 1858 to speak to the Pope about the Salesian congregation, he asked me to tell him everything that had even the suggestion of the supernatural about it. It was only then, for the first time, that I said anything about this dream, which I had when I was 9 or 10 years old. The Pope ordered me to write out the dream in all its detail, and to leave it as an encouragement to the son of that congregation whose formation was the reason for that visit in Rome. It's the account of Don Bosco in his Memoirs of the Oratory. But His Eminence, Cardinal Angel Fernandez, in writing this, speaking of a dream, a very special one besides this. And perhaps it's the link from that dream at 9, what we will look forward to at the end of this year of the Strena 2024, as we go to the next year. And let's go to that time when it was recounted, 1875. And you know what? It's 2025 is very special. This is we're in the eve of 2025, the Jubilee year. But look at 1875, of course, it's the 150 years of the missionary expedition. It's also the 150th year of the recounting of this very special dream that is very much like the dream at 9. And it's somehow the dream at 9 with many other things built up. Why? It's a very significant dream, and experts in Salesianity value it in a very particular way. So it was narrated by Don Bosco to Don Barberis in 1875, when Don Bosco was already 60 years old, when he had seen the birth of a Salesian congregation in December 18, 1859. And then the Archconfraternity of the Merihapa Christians, which we call ADMA these days, he established that in April 1869, on April 18, 1869. And then in 1872, 5th of August, the Institute of the Daughters of Merihapa Christians. So many things have happened already. He had the dream at 9, but now with this dream, so many things have happened. And it's about to see the light. The Pious Salesian Society of the Salesian Cooperators, according to the original name given by Don Bosco, he would establish it on 9th of May, 1876. So this was the dream, and it's very enlightening. And let's hear from Don Bosco's words. So he was saying, strange dreams lasting through the night came to comfort Don Bosco, as he confided once and only once to Father Julius Barberis and to us on February 2, 1875. In these mysterious visions, a series of interlaced scenes kept recurring along with various new ones. Previous scenes never wholly faded from view. They blended with the marvels of new dreams, all seeming to converge on only one point: the future of the oratory. And this is what Don Bosco told us. I seemed to be in a vast meadow with a huge crowd of boys who were fighting, swearing, stealing, and doing other blamable things. The air was thick with flying stones hurled by youngsters who were fighting. They were all abandoned boys, devoid of moral principles. I was about to turn away when I saw a lady beside me. Go among those boys, she said, and work. I approached them, but what could I do? I had no place to gather them, but I wanted to help them. I kept turning to some people who were watching from a distance and who could have come to my aid, but no one paid attention or gave me any assistance. I then turned to the lady. Here is a place, she said, and pointed to a meadow. That's only a meadow, I said. She replied, my son and his apostles did not even have a place to lay their heads. I began to work in that meadow, counseling, preaching, hearing confessions, but I saw that almost all my efforts were in vain. I had to have some building where I could gather and house those abandoned by their parents and those despised and rejected by society. Then the lady led me a little further to the north and said, look, I did so and saw a small church with a low roof, a small courtyard, and a great number of boys. I resumed my work, but since the church was becoming too small, I again appealed to the lady, and she pointed out another church, much larger, and the house adjacent to it. Then she took me closer to a field that was stilled and that lay almost opposite the facade of this new church. In this place, she added, were the glorious martyrs of Turin, Adventor and Octavius, suffered martyrdom. On these clods soaked and sanctified by their blood, I wish that God be honored in a very special manner. By the way, just a rejoinder, these glorious martyrs of Turin, Adventor and Octavius, they were martyred in that place. That's why it's called Valdocco, Valle degli Uccisi, meaning the valley of those who were killed. And so it's a holy place, a place of martyrs, Valdocco. Anyway, to continue. So saying, she put out her foot and pointed to the exact spot where the martyrs had fallen. I wanted to leave a marker there so as to find the place again when I returned, but I could not see a single stick or stone. Nevertheless, I kept the place clearly in mind. It coincides exactly with the inner corner of the chapel of the Holy Martyrs, previously known as St. Anne's Chapel. It is the front left corner as one faces the main altar of the Church of Mary Help of Christians. In the meantime, I found myself being surrounded by a very vast and ever-increasing number of boys. As I kept looking to the lady, the premises and the means were also growing accordingly. I saw then a very grand church, the very spot she had pointed out as the place where the soldiers of the Theban Legion had been martyred. There were a great many buildings all around, and in the center stood a beautiful monument. While these things were taking place and I was still dreaming, I saw that priests and clerics were helping me, but after a while, they left. I tried everything to get others to stay, but after a while, they too left me alone. Then I turned once more to the lady for help. Do you want to know what to do to keep them? She asked. take this ribbon and bind their foreheads with it. Reverently, I took the white ribbon from her hand and noticed the word obedience written on it. I immediately gave it a try and began to bind the foreheads of these volunteers. The ribbon worked wonders as I went ahead with the mission entrusted to me. All my helpers gave up the idea of leaving me and stayed on. And so our congregation was born. I saw a great many other things, but there's no need to relate them now. Maybe he was referring to important future events. Suffice it to say that ever since, I have walked on sure ground as regards the auditories, the congregation, and the manner of dealing with outsiders, irrespective of their position. I have already foreseen all the difficulties that will arise, and I know how to overcome them. I can see perfectly, bit by bit, what is to take place, and I go forward without hesitation. It was only after I had seen churches, schools, playgrounds, boys, clerics, and priests helping me, and I had learned how to advance the entire apostolate that I began to mention it to others and speak of it as a reality. That's why so many people thought that I was talking foolishly and believed I was insane. Hence the origin of that unshakable faith in the success of his mission, that confidence that resembled fearlessness in facing all sorts of obstacles, that undertaking of colossal feats beyond human strength, and yet bringing them all to a successful conclusion. So, that was how that special dream was recounted. And it could be a reflection for us, that decisive step. It's looking at the dream at 9 already from a different standpoint, from his experiences. Of course, we do not know when is that extent, when was that night or that occasion when he dreamed that special dream. But definitely it had already been influenced by his experiences. When we look at the strength, I'm sure, or it speaks about us looking at the dream. When we look at the dream, you heard about the dream when probably you as a Salesian now, you've heard about the dream when you were a student in Don Bosco. And it's quite significant to see it at that time and then look at it right now. That's why you cannot say perennially that I have already read that dream. I have already heard about it. No, every time that you look at it, it's always new. With Don Bosco, it was like that. He was looking at the dream at 9, but then so many elements have come in. And so at this point, at the beginning of this year, and maybe even late last year, we've seen the dream. But now we look at it again. How has it changed for us? As Director Major was saying at that time, 2024 was a year, or would be a year, and the strena for studying and exploring the memoirs of the oratory and the dream at 9. How far have we gone after that? Memoirs of the oratory, have you read this? The year is about to pass. And it was the invitation at the beginning of the year. Have we read the memoirs of the oratory? That's it. It's the autobiography of St. John Bosco. This is the English edition. Memoirs of the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales from 1815 to 1855. Father, the oratory was established only in 1841. Why 1815? 1815 because it came with Don Bosco. It's as if Don Bosco was saying, the story of the oratory begins with my birth. And so he recounts his birth. To 1855, he chose that span of time, and he was dividing his life into 10 years, by 10 years, 1815 to 1825, 25 to 35, and so on. Now, the English edition, if ever you have not yet seen it, go look for it. Ask the Salesians here, where can we find the copy? Can we clone? Can we look at the digital copy? And so it was translated by Daniel Lyons, SDB, with Eugenio Seria commenting on it, Lawrence Castelvecchi and Michael Mendel, and published by New Rochelle. But anyway, uh, in that in the preface of the Memoirs of the Oratory, we find Don Bosco writing, and this one serves us really great words from our founder. Now, what purpose can this chronicle serve? It will be a record to help people overcome problems that may come in the future by learning from the past. When you read what Don Bosco has written about, you'll be able to be enlightened, inspired to overcome problems. It will serve to make known how God Himself has always been our guide. It's God's hand behind all of these. And then Don Bosco continues, I will give my sons some entertainment and to be able to read about their father's adventures. Doubtless they will be read much more avidly when I have been called by God to render my account when I am no longer amongst them. And so we are able to read what Don Bosco wrote about his life because he wrote this. And this is very interesting. In the introduction, still by Don Bosco, should they come upon experiences related maybe with complacency or the appearance of vainglory, let them indulge me a little. A father delights in speaking of his exploits to his dear children. It is always to be hoped that the sons will draw from these adventures, small and great, some spiritual and temporal advantage. It's not bragging. It doesn't sound bragging. Why? We brag about our fathers. Oh, my father was able to do this. My father was able to do this. Don Bosco is our father. And when we read the Memoirs of the Oratory, we are proud of him. So get to know more about him. This year is about to end, but it does not end. It should not end our desire to read more about Don Bosco, especially the Memoirs of the Oratory. As I said, no, the contents are here. There are 2 introductory chapters about his boyhood and then about the dream. Part 1 is about his early education in 1825 to 1835, and then the seminary training and the wandering oratory, 1835 to 1845. And then the planting firm roots, oratory already established, 1846 to 1856. And there are in all 63 chapters. And guess, chapter 63 is about Grigio, the dog of Don Bosco. And then Director Major at that time, when he was presenting this Strena, he was careful not to present Don Bosco as an unattainable ideal. He is a model whom we can follow. The Salesians know Article 21 of the Salesian Constitutions is about Don Bosco, our model. And so the dream at 9 years of age as a prophecy that needs to be clarified and seen in today's context. How is the dream at 9 relevant for us? It continues to be relevant for us, but how can it be seen in our own context? And then to emphasize also Don Bosco's entrustment to providence, when he was told, in good time you will understand everything. And therefore, we have to also face the wolves that seek to devour the flock. What are the wolves in our times? Indifference, ethical relativism, consumerism that destroys the value of things and experiences, and also false ideologies. When he was told, this young John Bosco was told in the dream, not by blows. Now that is more necessary than ever. Why? Because there's a lot of hate speech. There's a lot of violence that are on the increase, even in social media. And then we see Mary, the lady as teacher and mother, who was saying, look, learn, patient. Let this be imperative for us. Look, learn, be patient. And finally, the dream that makes us dream. The boss's choices is part of the larger plan. That dream of his, it's God's own dream among many others. But that's plan for his plan for him, God's plan for him. God has a dream for each of us. What is his dream for you? God achieves great things with simple instruments. Connected life, choosing, dreaming, deciding. These are all things that involve taking responsibility for the consequences of that choice. The words are important. Make yourself humble, strong, and energetic. You are gifted. Many of you are gifted, but be humble. Be strong and energetic. Take care of your health. That's what we owe to the young people. Take care of your health because we're asked by God to help them. And it is necessary also to explore young people's dreams with them. What's beautiful about the dream of Don Bosco is that it is the dream that kept him awake. Usually we dream asleep, but this dream kept him awake all his life. And we need others to build ourselves and our dream. And what is important here? Guidance. Are we guided? Do we receive guidance? Do we guide our young people to discern their dream, the meaning of it? But let us not be afraid in all of these. You know, when we dream, will this come true? Sometimes we do not understand. That's why the young John Bosco cried because he did not understand. Marie Curie, the famous scientist, the gifted woman, said, Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. Understand more. When we did not know about COVID, we were afraid because we did not understand it. What are the things right now that you're afraid of? Try to understand. Let's go back to the words in the dream. At that point, still dreaming, I began crying. I begged the lady to speak so that I could understand her, because I did not know what all this could mean. She then placed her hand on my head and said, In good time, you will understand everything. In good time, you will understand everything. This is the Basilica of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in Rome, built by none other than Don Bosco himself in his later years. In fact, it was consecrated months before he died. Enter that church, and there in front you would see this altar, the main altar. That's the painting of the Sacred Heart there in the background. And then while facing this, you turn to the left, face left. And this is what you will see, the altar of Mary Help of Christians. And this altar is quite significant. This is where Don Bosco celebrated Mass days after the consecration of the Basilica. And when he said Mass on that altar, he was pausing many times. He was crying. He was weeping. And of course, it was noticeable. And when they were back at the sacristy, his secretary, Father Villetti, was asking Don Bosco, you had to pause many times. Why? And you were weeping. That was in May 16, 1887. And Don Bosco said, while I was celebrating the Mass, all of these scenes, they flashed through me. The scenes of my life, from the time that I dreamt when I was about 9 or 10 years old till now. And in that dream, he said, in that dream, I wept. I was crying because I could not understand. And the lady was telling me, in due time, you will understand everything. I was crying because I did not understand. Now I'm crying because I now understand. In due time, you will understand. Hashtag tamang panahon. In due time, you will understand. And now, we're reflecting on this. Now, sorry, I'm covering the font there at the back, but 2024, we were talking about the dream. So from dream, and then we will look forward. From dream to hope. Okay, they're of the same stuff. The dream. Dream is not only panaginip, which is found during the night, of course, something, a semblance of the past, but pangarap is for the future. In fact, from the panaginip, you can also look into the future as what Don Bosco saw in the dream at 9. Pangarap. we look to the future. And when we have that dream, when we dream, pangarap, we hope, we look forward. This is our dream. And we hope. That's why it's so meaningful to put together these 2 years, 2024 to 2025. That's why your journey today, as you gather here, it's not ended. It will continue for the next year because it will be a jubilee of hope. And we hope together with the young people, we share their hopes and we share in each other's hope. You who are gathered here, we have our hopes, we have our dream, and let's live the dream. Continue walking together, making alive that dream. 2024 will not end the dream, nor will it end our reflection of the dream because we will continue to hope. And all of these years that would come, actually, they're connected with the dream. The missionary anniversary, 150th missionary of the first expedition, actually, that's a realization of the dream. And you are there, I'm here. Boss is present all over the world because the dream has been realized. Dear friends, let's ask ourselves these questions in order to throw these reflection questions to all of you. How does Don Bosco's dream inspire us to see and respond to the spiritual and material needs of our young people? How does Don Bosco's dream inspire us to see and respond to the spiritual and material needs of our young people? Second, in the dream, Mary serves as a guide for Don Bosco in his mission. How can we deepen our devotion to Mary and rely on her guidance in our apostolic work? And I'd like to add a final question. What do we hope for? What are our hopes? What are our dreams? Dear friends, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure to be with you. I would have wanted to be with you physically, to be able to share, to listen to what we think about the dream, about what I have shared. But we would be having our quarterly reflection as a community, so I could not make it. But anyway, in the future, I could be of service once again for you. I'll be hoping for that, dreaming for that. God bless you all and have a great day and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.